about this is a little bit more on the micro level.
Yeah.
So Scott Sillari is somebody who I met through viral marketing. And you guys, we had you remember Frank that we had on? He's the one that taught us about, because of Frank, I have this system. For those of you that were on our last one, I have this thing, and the lighting and all the stuff. So Frank is Frank with viral I've known him for years. And when I have been, I have two businesses. I have Starks Realty Group, that is my divorce real estate business that I stay in contact with, my attorneys and my sphere. And then I've also got the Alumni Institute. And when I wanted to really get super purposeful about keeping a very effective marketing campaign alive and going, I actually needed to like birth it and then keep it alive and going. I thought in my head, who do I know? Who should I call? Because I don't really have time to like read all these books and take all these courses and whatever. I just need somebody who knows, who has done all of the research and who's actually done it. And I need to just give them a call and pick their brain and whatever. And so Scott Sillari naturally came to mind. And I sent him a text and I said, can I pick your brain? So generous with his time and such a wealth of knowledge. And Scott Sillari, literally, it was almost like, Scott, you pointed out the obvious. And it was like, oh, duh. Like, I never thought of that, but it's so obvious and such simple stuff. And you provided me with this framework of how to do things. You made something that I thought was so big and complex, and oh my God, I have to get marketing firms involved, and we've got to get all of these creatives and have like, have these focus groups. You're just like, no, you know what? Like, here's what you need. Here's your audience and here's what you need to say and whatever.
Yeah.
And so then you've provided that framework. Game changer.
Yeah.
Then what you did, then I started to run into these other issues. I'm like, oh my God, I have all this content I have to create, and I don't even know where to begin and how to just manage my time to do it. And he's like, oh, I've got hacks for you. So he then gave me his hacks. And so Scott is the guy that I call. He is the guy that has helped to build he's been like the architect for Starks Realty Group as well as for Alumni on how we engage and keep in touch with our database. And he did this for viral marketing. Those of you who know viral marketing, it's an insanely successful, it's probably I think it's like the biggest video email marketing platform that exists. Scott built that from the ground up. He built and constructed their sales and marketing department. And then he went on to RealSync, which I want to talk about in just a little bit also about that as a major hack in a real estate business that has been a freaking life changer, whatever. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. He went to RealSync, and as a startup, they were super smart and poached him. And then he has built and designed their whole sales and marketing division and department. So anyway, naturally, I get a lot of questions about how do you market your business? How do you stay in touch? How do you do all of these things? And so naturally, I'm like, you know what? We need to have Scott on. I need to open Scott up to all of my people, which are all of you, and just so that he can share his wisdom with you guys, just like he has with me. And I think that you'll just, so that's Scott in a nutshell. And we're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah. Laurel, thank you for that introduction. It's very sweet and kind.
I think it took up a third of our time, but that's okay.
Well, I just want everyone to know, look, I like to have fun. So, and I like to answer questions. If you have them, please ask, because I'll answer anything. And I think it's important that that everyone understands like where my writing and sales skills comes from. And it's just honestly, it's like just doing it and advising people for, I mean, almost 10 years now on marketing and sales, right? So, um, obviously I've read books and done, but at the end of the day, you just got to write, and that's how you improve and get good at it and understand what works and doesn't,
Yeah.
But we'll go into a lot of specifics.
I want to hear all the specifics, and you're just
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna love this. Although I've got to wipe off my lipstick. Do you see my coffee cup?
Yeah.
Create your own story. So this is my
Okay.
inspired coffee cup. When I get up to write content, I drink coffee out of this one. What's yours say? I
Pop.
I what?
I popped.
Oh, I popped the question.
Yeah, it's still my mom sent this when I got engaged years ago.
That's so cute. You popped the question, and I'm creating my own story. So, okay. So Scott, how would you, let's start big and then sort of go small. How's that? Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So you've got, and so what I want to do is what Scott's teaching us today, it is going to apply. This is a framework that's going to apply to like any business, like where we're talking about real estate, but it's going to apply, right?
These are fundamentals that like, no matter, like if you're in a sales or marketing position, or like as like the rainmaker of your business, specifically in real estate, like how do you attract people and get them, to listen to you, especially those in your sphere, your database, and to make sure that you're top of mind all the time, right? And that's a lot we did at Viral, but like you have to get good with language and writing and like putting your message in the right way in front of them, not just making phone calls and going, "You ready to sell your house?" Like, sorry, you know what I would say to that if someone called me to do that, right? So like, how do you influence and add value and all these things, but through media, whether it's through video and writing, letters in the mail, direct mail, all these different options that you have to get your message in front of somebody, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important. And then it's like we could start there and then narrow down to like one of the most important things that people miss, and I see it happening all the time, is that it's about your message to the right market, right? And the media is the easier thing to decide because there's only so many options, right? And you can get creative with that. I mean, maybe send a hologram or something, right? But like at the end of the day, it's like video or an email or a social media post or a direct letter. But the message to the right market is where people miss all the time. And that's one of the most important things, is that you need to really identify who you're marketing to, who your target audience is, what their problem is, and how you're going to solve that problem, and how you're going to differentiate yourself from the other 1,000 realtors that are in your market.
So I'm thinking of kind of an analogy to really drive your point home. Okay. Yeah. So for example, viral marketing is, they do video emails, right?
Right.
So your ideal client is probably not you have to create an avatar. It's probably not someone who just started in real estate. I mean, it could be, but your ideal client is probably that.
Are you talking Viral's ideal client? Yeah.
Probably like, you probably have a volume range. You're like, okay, it's
you get a volume range. You maybe have an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe have 1 to 2 buyer's agents. So like you've gone through the pain of doing all the sales yourself, and then you've identified the fact that you need to hire someone. You've made that attempt, or you've done that a little bit. You've done a certain amount of volume, and you need to leverage yourself. That's usually the baseline for people that were hiring Viral. And then all the way up to like, someone that's running a big team that understands the value of leverage. And what, Viral would bring to the table is that they have a lot of specifics that they bring into one place, right? And what I mean by that is that they can edit the videos, they can do the writing, they could do the posting. They kind of do all this marketing for you, where it could potentially be a lot of people that you'd have to hire that had those skills,
Right.
right? Which is a real pain. So you get it all in one place. I'm a viral client. They send out my video emails for RealSync because I know the value of that. I have a lot of other writing I need to do. I block off one day a week, and we can get to that too on like how you block time. That was one of the things me and Laurel talked about, because a lot of times you run around with your head chopped off and it's like, oh, I'm going to step back and sit down now at 3 PM and be creative. It's a different part of your brain. It's very difficult to do. So you really have to, like protect yourself in the time that you're going to spend writing, like put your phone away. And there's a thing. So I feel like I'm getting all over the place, but
you've got to know who your target audience is. That's
yes. Let's get back to that. Right.
Who are you writing to?
Right.
Right.
Right. You do. It's very important. And it's like, okay. And I mean, for real estate, it's like, all right, a lot of people are buyers or sellers potentially, right? They want a home, they want to buy a home, right? But it's more than that. It's like you have to understand your community, who's living in your community, like what price point you're potentially going after, and what people identify within that community. Like it's more than that, right? And at the same time, you have to understand when they're coming into your ecosystem, excuse me, and what that message needs to be when they come in. Like, what are they thinking about? Where are they?
See,
right.
that's one of
And
the
a lot of
yeah.
people miss that. I can't tell you how many times I've opted in or been forced to opt in on your buyer site when all I want to do is look at a couple of homes and I'm not even close to buying, right? This is why I never opted into anyone's sites. I just used Redfin when I bought my house, because when I opted into Redfin, they left me alone and I could just go on their app and search and look at homes, and I got updates. That's all I wanted for a long time until I got closer to making that transaction, right? And that's where people miss, is that when I opted in, a bunch of clients I used to work with sites, all of a sudden I'm getting emails from like their loan officer, are you pre-qualified? I'm getting bombarded, and it's like, no, F you, excuse me, leave me alone. I just want to look at a couple of houses. I'm not there yet. So I think that's a big thing too, Laurel, is people miss that. And they have all this automation canned content, and it's going to alienate their audience, especially new leads that they're generating.
I've totally 100%. That is something you've had to reel me back, because I'm like, okay, but Scott, there's blah, 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 all this. And you're like, slow down, sister, right?
Yeah.
This person is here and you're here. You need to meet them where they are. Put yourself in their shoes. So key point number one, meet your client or your whatever person, your audience. Meet your audience where they are.
Yeah. And play safe than sorry, right? You're
Good.
better to lead with a secondary offer, is what we call that in marketing. And Frank's probably talked about this in the past, but it's better to lead with the secondary offer than to go right for the kill. Like, are you ready to buy or sell? Right? Like, hey, like, thanks for opting in. I'm going to keep you informed about what's happening in our community with some, videos or emails that I send out every couple of weeks. Or you're going to get, now that you opted in, you're just going to get updates about the homes in the area that you're looking in. That's it. That's all they need to get initially.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then now that they're in your ecosystem, you can start doing more marketing and more sales writing and putting direct offers in front of them about like what you offer to your market differently, right? Like whether it's a guarantee program, or you'll buy a house for cash, like all these different offers that you can present to them. You can do that now as they've gotten into your funnel, but you can't be doing that stuff off the bat, right? So it's really important that you identify like who your target audience is and where they're at. Because you need to be like, you need to think of yourself as someone that's like guiding them in their story. Not like, it's not about you and your agenda. It's like, where are they at in their storyline? And how can you guide them along with your messaging until they can, buy or sell a house, which inevitably is why you're in real estate in the first place, is to help people do that, right? So
yeah.
it starts at the very top though. Like you have to like guide them, right?
So you're talking absolutely. And so you're talking about when someone comes into your when you talk about the funnel. So when someone comes in,
Yeah.
these are people who either you meet somebody at a place or and you've got their name or they come into your website and they've submitted a request or however whatever this is a new contact that is coming into your sphere.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
So it's, and I was reading a question that came in, or a message, but yeah, like it, look, it depends on how you meet them, right? So like the last thing you want to do is meet someone at an event, and obviously those aren't happening very often right now, but you meet someone at an event and then they get the same email that someone that opted in your website would get. And
right,
that's incorrect, right?
right,
That needs to be a different email set or a different campaign,
right,
right?
right,
Based on the fact that you've already met them and had a conversation with them, and you've created a little bit of rapport compared to a cold lead that just came in, right? The cold lead that's coming in is definitely further up the funnel and just wants some basic information to come on in, right? Where someone that you may have met, like that, that is further down the funnel and they should be getting a different set of emails from you or marketing.
right, right.
Yeah.
So okay, so do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you know, what do you say to someone who is first coming in? What does that first message look like?
So the number one message that gets open and that people will search for to find you in their email inbox is a welcome message. So no matter what type of campaign it is that you're putting together, and where that where that audience member fits, or that that person that's coming in, whether it's a webinar like this that you're doing something, or you're doing a training event, or you're doing a social event. I mean, there should be different campaigns for every single person. That's what's great about CRMs. You just apply a tag and you probably start them on a drip campaign, right? You should have all these different things set up, but they need to be customized and written by you, not just what's purchased, right?
Can we
Um,
can I ask you real quick because this is kind of I want people to understand because we've got all different levels of agents on the call
yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah.
What systems are needed? Just
Oh.
what are your basic and you don't have to give like recommendations
No,
necessarily.
actually, in preparing, I did have,
Oh,
I
good.
wrote down a few recommendations.
Okay.
So you need to have a CRM that allows you to customize your campaigns.
Mhm.
Okay. So, there's a lot of real estate CRMs out there that people use, you know, from, Boomtown, Sierra, Follow Up Boss, uh, Firepoint, Commissions Inc., KV Core, Chime. I mean, there's a bunch, right?
Yeah.
One of the number one things for in this instance when we're talking about sales writing is that you need to be able to customize your campaigns. And I wouldn't just go to any CRM and then they say, hey, we can do all these campaigns for you, and you're not allowed to customize them. So it's one thing if they're templated out, and certain ones, like, you may not have to adjust much. You can kind of look at them and maybe make a little adjustments. But that's number one thing. You have to have a CRM, of course, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then the campaign aspect of that CRM, right? So Laurel, you use HubSpot. I use HubSpot. Um, the other tool I would say to look into that I use is called Woodpecker, and that you can set up with your Gmail. And if anyone got an email from me and opted into this webinar, they got it through my Woodpecker account, and it comes across like a one-to-one email. So I basically write a little draft and I try to make it very conversational. So it disguises the email, right? And you can name merge, and then it sends out through your Gmail one-to-one. And it's recommended that you don't send more than like 300 to 400 per day. And it just drips out. So you can put a sizable list in there, but that's meant for like your very, very, like your sphere, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So that's one of the tools that I recommend. What else did I write down? Yeah, I mean, you want to have a mass email marketing tool as well, right? So like whether that's through your CRM, or you have something like a MailChimp or a MyEmma, which are marketing systems, or you hire a company like Viral. to do your video marketing where that you can send out to your entire database at one time. So I use them as well. I have a database of like 8,000 that I send an email out every couple of weeks. That's a video email, and then it's written up and put on a blog. So those are, I would say, like, those are the, when it comes to writing and dispersing content, those are the medias that I'm using. I have not really gotten into direct mail, but there's a lot of very good direct mail systems out there. And, you know, you can essentially, you know, pick, like that's like for farming, right? You could pick a farm and like, that's where you would write your sales offer as well.
So I want to say this because if you're somebody who's on the call and you're like, oh my God, all these systems, I don't even know what he just said. And who has time like to get all these systems?
Yeah.
I will tell you that Scott's going to talk to us about a hack. And I don't want to deviate right now, but if you're stressing, because there's a lot of duplicate information you have to put in, right? There's you've got your MailChimp account, you've got your Woodpecker, you've got your CRM, you've got all of these things, and there is all of this. How in the heck do you tie all this together so that you're not just like in admin hell?
Yeah.
Scott's going to talk to us. I want to get to the content part,
Right.
but don't worry, because he's got a hack that we use that ties it all together, that makes your life, you know, that you'll be able to be sane and you'll be able to sell houses and not just live in admin hell. Okay.
Yeah.
So
wait, real quick. So Paul made a comment, and Paul, I want to get your comment real quick, but you're right. It's like, I don't think of anyone as a lead. It's a person.
Can you read his comment? Not to I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. So Paul says it depends. Analysts. Yeah, it depends on your definition of a lead is. In other words, if you're looking for people ready to transact in next 3, 6 or 9 months, you're right. Cold calling helps identify those transacting now. Sure. You still, like, you know, even if you're cold calling, you still want to be leading. You know, you're going to get more bang for your buck when you're making a cold call if you're leading with a secondary offer than a primary offer. And I think that's what we were talking about when you made this comment, is that, sure, like, no matter what, if someone's ready to buy or sell and like you're nice and talking to them on the phone, they answer, like, you're going to identify that through the call. But if you're leading with the secondary offer, all the other people that aren't, if your goal is just to get them into your fold when you're cold calling and get an email, you're going to get more people into your sphere to nurture for the 3 to 6 to 9 months that convert long term. So again, I always recommend you lead first with a secondary offer. I promise you, if that person's ready to buy or sell, that secondary offer will lead to the primary offer.
Can you describe what primary offer and secondary offers are?
Yeah. So if you're reaching out, and you're welcome, Paul. Thank you. If you're reaching out to if you're making cold calls to a community, right? Like, I want to be like, hey, I'm calling in whatever your sales script is to, you know, I'm trying to identify whether or not you're ready to buy or sell a home. The market's doing really good right now, blah, 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 blah. Like, whatever that script is, I don't even know what it is. But like, if your first offer is trying to identify whether or not they're a seller or a buyer, I would say that's the wrong approach, even when you're making a cold call. Mm-hmm. Your approach should be, hey, my name's John. I'm a local real estate agent here in the community. And you need to be asking, you want to be getting their email, right? So you want to be leading like, hey, I published some really great content about what's happening locally in the market, and specifically what's happening in your community. I'd love to stay in touch and send you some material about, you know, what's happening with home prices within your neighborhood. Is that okay if I stay in touch? And like, that's kind of your secondary offer.
Or contribute. It's free. And it's like, why would any homeowner would love to know what's going on in their market, because it's insane right now.
Yeah. You're going to get way more yeses to that than like, are you ready to buy or sell? Right. And again, what I meant was, when you lead with that type of offer, or maybe you're hosting a community barbecue or something, and you're inviting people to something for free, right, in your very targeted neighborhood, whatever it is, you need to be like offering something of value that's free, right? And that's what I mean by secondary offer.
And you're not asking for a sale.
No.
What
will happen, no matter what, is if they're interested, that secondary offer will lead to your primary offer on that phone call. I guarantee it 100% every single time. If the person that you just contacted is ready to buy or sell, like your natural conversation will open up and you'll find that out, right?
Yeah.
Just by being a good salesperson and being able to build rapport, because you're going to ask them a series of questions after you lead with the secondary offer, right? So I know we're kind of off topic and we're talking about phone calls, not writing, but it kind of goes, and it all goes hand in
The
hand a
whole
little bit.
campaign, I mean,
Yeah.
overall, right?
But yeah, then you want to get that email so then you can nurture them, right? And a nurture campaign's different than like an act now campaign, right? When you meet someone that's maybe considering something soon, like that campaign they're getting is different than a long-term nurture campaign that is 6 months plus,
Right.
right? Because that campaign is just value, staying in touch. Here's something of value. Here's something that's happening locally. Here's something I can identify with, a story of something local, right?
Mhm.
Like what can, something that they can really identify with. That's the value that you're adding, providing in the nurture, and staying in front of them so you're top of mind. So when they are ready to buy or sell, they're thinking of you because you've been staying in front of them, right?
And giving them value. They see that you're valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed to, just sending them necessarily like, a whole new, like all the open houses or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, not that that's a bad thing, but
No.
it's nothing that they can't find anywhere else.
So yeah, I want to jump back. Let me have another question from Paul. Would you have some template email campaigns that you'd sell?
Real quick, I want to say whenever when
Yeah.
you're typing, if you type to just panelists, only Scott and I can see it.
Ah,
So
okay, there you go. Yeah.
when you guys are asking questions, just do the drop down to panelists and attendees so everybody can see your question. Otherwise, Scott and I are like responding and you guys are like, what are you talking to? Like yourself? So anyway, that's it.
So Paul, I consult on the side to help people. But I'm not going to template write the campaigns. It's important that you write them. But like
Yeah.
I guided Laurel out. I would guide you. So the thing I want to jump back to is we've kind of talked about message. So think of a triangle: message, market, media. Right? Those three things need to always match. And I talked earlier about the message and the market are the two most important. The media, it fluctuates and you can try different things to see what works, right? That's really important. But then getting to like we haven't really gotten to the subject lines and the body of the content, right? And like how you actually go ahead and write an email that can get someone to actually take action. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important.
Exactly. So what is the framework? What's the framework of emails, like of a campaign, and what's the framework of the actual emails?
Yeah. So I think the campaign is very subjective as far as like the length of it and like the time frame, right? I don't think there's one great answer. I think I have some campaigns that are 3 to 4 emails, right? I have others that are 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have some that span over 10 days and I have some that span over a whole month. To start, right? And then they all go on to the long-term nurture, right? Which is, I mean, it's, your 33 touch, if you're talking Gary Keller here, right? Like that whole plan of, or 50 touch or 80 touch, whatever it is now. But the framework with the initial, the initial email, right? In campaign is you could say mess, turning point, success, or pain, agitate, solve. It's kind of the same thing, right? You really need to identify, again, you got to get in the head of the audience and where they're at and what pain are they currently going through, right? Or and pain's like a strong word, right? But like, maybe it's not actual pain, but like what's their problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It
then
can be a solution to a problem.
right. And you
That's how I built my
want
business.
to agitate the problem.
Mhm.
So you kind of want to make it seem a little bit worse than it might be.
Can you
Right.
give an example?
For like for divorce or for like what, for any consumer?
Well, I can give you an example for divorce.
Sure.
How about if I run this
And that,
past
yeah, you give an example, then I'll give an example of like maybe a normal buyer and
and you
what
can
problem
tell
they
me if
have.
my example, this is what Scott and I do. I'm like, Scott, I have this idea. And
Yeah.
he's like, that's a horrible idea.
Or
Or,
a great idea.
or he's like, that's a great idea. Okay, so how about this? So, for example, let's call it divorcing homeowners. Okay.
Yep.
What is a problem that divorcing homeowners have? Well, one of the problems that divorcing homeowners have is that, I mean, well, there's lots. I'm just trying to cite
And I
them.
was gonna say,
Where do I
get
begin?
out your pen.
Yeah. But one of the problems that divorcing homeowners have, believe it or not, is that they don't know whether they can keep their house. They're getting a divorce. They've just discovered something, their spouse is having an affair, or maybe they've discovered that they've fallen out of love or whatever. And they don't know if they can keep living in their house.
Right.
That is usually, you know how you were talking about like the very beginning. So that is the problem of a new divorcing homeowner. Usually by like towards the end of the case, they've got things figured out or whatever, and they've got other problems, believe me, other problems towards the end of the case. But in the beginning of the case, it's like, can I keep my house or not?
Right.
So
So,
yeah,
and
go
I
ahead.
was going to ask you, because I know like targeting someone in that position is very difficult and probably the wrong approach, right? So, um, I think from a writing standpoint, you probably recommend or train or teach, it should be a more generalized blog post
Right.
or message to your database about, kind of encapsulating that idea of that pain situation, right?
Correct. So
Yeah.
this is not something where you get a list of recent filings from your title company and then you start sending out these targeted messages saying got divorce.
Yeah.
um
Wait,
one
honey, what?
Yeah, right.
What? Why are we doing
What?
this?
What? Yeah. So, it's not that. It's also not like, you're trolling Facebook and you target campaigns to people that just updated their status. It's complicated. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Bad idea. But this is general and it's almost like it's all part of a general marketing campaign that is peppered with, you've got like market stats, the top three things every homeowner needs to know about staging. And then it's, um, you know, divorcing homeowners, should they keep their home? And then it's answering that. Then that puts the antenna. The thing about divorce is it's a big buzzword. So
Yeah.
people like, it's sort of a shocking word to those who are not used to hearing it all the time. So you have somebody in your database who reads that. It's either going to apply to them or it's going to apply to somebody that they know. Just the law of averages in the United States, it is going to apply to somebody they know if it's not themselves. But
Right.
exactly, Scott, that's how you frame it.
Right. Right. So, I was thinking, while you're talking about that, I was thinking about like, all right, well, a problem of like, let's say a first time home buyer. I was one of them last summer. I never bought before and just probably there's a lot of reasons why, right? But I think, simplifying, what that like identifying that problem, right? Like first time home buyer, scared, doesn't understand the process because they've never been through it before, not really sure what they can afford. Maybe they haven't gone to a mortgage person to get, pre-qualified before. Maybe they really don't understand their finances very well or understand like how the, debt to income ratio works, like all, where they should be looking. Like there's all these different things happening, right? Maybe they've been in patterns of renting for 20 years and they
Mhm.
just, like there's like, so I identifying like that's a first time home buyer. That's a lot of the different things that they're going through, right? So you want to make sure that when you're writing to that person specifically, that you identify those things, right, as the pain or the problem, and then you agitate it. And how do you agitate that pain or problem, Laurel?
You describe what are the consequences of making the wrong choice.
Or staying in the current rental market
Yeah,
potentially,
that too.
right?
Yeah,
And wasting away money
right.
and
That's
all
why
these different things that you could list out on why it's not good, why like the reverse of it, why it's time to buy, right?
right.
And what the reverse of that. So listing out all the things, and that's going to agitate, right? And they're going to identify with those things, being like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I'm a specific example. I've been spending so much money on rent that when I finally bought, my mortgage is cheaper. Now my HOA kind of sucks and it's expensive, but still, that's neither here nor there.
Mortgage interest deduction, and you
Yeah, yeah.
building
But I
well.
get, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get a much bigger tax return this year to
Yeah.
pay, for that interest, right? And I'm actually gonna be in a much better place. I'm probably save myself $1,000 a month, from what I than just throwing away that money on rent, right? So, anyway, everyone's got their own reasons on why they haven't bought yet, but that's one specific person that you as realtors, you've dealt with those people before. You know the pain that they're going through. You have to rely on your experience and step back. And this is what we talked about when I mentioned earlier. Like, I block off every Thursday to just critically think and write. So like when I say that to you, how do you feel about like, oh my God, how can I block off a whole day? Right? Maybe it's not a whole day. Maybe it's a half day, right? But like it needs to be a place where you put your phone away. You you write out like, all right, what are the campaigns that I need to complete? Like who's my audience that I need to start talking to better to convert more business?
Mhm.
Right? You identify that person and then you identify the message. And then it starts with the problem they have, how you can agitate it because you know what they deal with.
Mhm.
And then what's the solution at the end of the day? That's probably the easiest part. You guys know how to solve problems, right? You're salespeople. You've been solving these problems, as people go through contract, when you talk to them on the phone, right? You know that. So you write that out, right? What's the solution?
Problem, agitate, solution.
Yep.
That's it.
And
Those are the three components to an email campaign.
correct. And if you can do it while telling a story and also surprising them. And I'm going to recommend some books to you guys and a
How do
couple
you
other
surprise
resources.
them? You lost me at surprising them.
Well, surprising's another, if you read about screenwriting, okay, and what screenwriters do to make movies, that's one of the biggest things that we forget to use within our campaign writing. Okay. And I thought I'd mention it to you. Maybe I didn't. I'm sorry. Bad consultant. But yeah, surprising people. So something within the story that surprises them, right?
Oh, it's like grab the popcorn.
Yeah. Like, right. So that's kind of the idea. So if you can do the pain, agitate, solve with a story that someone about us, telling a story that someone can identify with. That's why you always see like these, a lot of realtors use the first time home buyer. I have kids, I have a family, I'm looking to get into this neighborhood. They write about this fictitious person that they have, which potentially is a real person.
Sometimes they're real. Yeah.
Sometimes they're real, but why that letter resonates with when you're sending a direct mail piece out to a neighborhood to find a listing, because people identify with having being a first time home buyer, having children, right? Looking for a nice neighborhood to live in, a nice community, a good education, good schools in that community. People that live in that community, I understand who that person is and identify with that, right? That's the story. So again, you're doing that same thing here, right? You're telling a story that that particular person in that audience identifies with.
Okay. So it's dear so and so. And then you and you see, this is what right, and then you start out with, so you're renting, and how does it feel to keep paying your landlord, building wealth for your landlord or whatever, or you're renting and you don't know, you don't think you can afford a house right now. You hear interest rates are low, but maybe you've got maybe your FICO score isn't that great or something, whatever is going through their head. And then, and here's the thing, there are several things, right? So then like that's email number 2. Okay. So email number 1 is, oh,
well, it's always the welcome email.
Oh yeah. It's the welcome email.
Right.
Then it's,
if they're coming in, I guess if you're emailing, I mean, really you shouldn't be emailing anyone that doesn't expect your email. And that's why it's so important. Like when you get someone's email, that they get a welcome email right away and they get onto a campaign right away, because you're going to lose them if you don't email them for a month.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, yes, they're coming into the fold. They get the welcome email, and in your welcome email, it's what to expect. So hopefully you identified like what audience they belong in, right? Somehow, whether through the opt-in or through a conversation, if you talk to them over the phone, that way that first email outlines what they can expect. It's like a sales call, right?
Yeah. And it's,
if you're doing a sales, you lay out the expectation of your listing presentation ahead of time. That's the first thing you should be doing, right? When you sit down, is like, hey, this is like the 8 steps we're going to take today. As as I go through this presentation, these are the things that we're going to do. I'm going to do this. We're going to go look at your home, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. Like, you're outlining what they can expect. So there's not a ton of, surprises as far as like bad surprises. And I'll answer your question, John, about good surprises. But like, so they know what's coming within your email marketing campaign, right?
Right.
And then within the, the second email, is, you want to, in each email, you want to do all 3 things if you can, right?
Pain, agitate, solve with a story and a surprise.
Right. And so a surprise to, John asked for everyone, any chance you can give an example of a surprise? Well, in this circumstance, we're talking about first time home buyers, right? So a surprise might be like dropping in some ridiculous data point or statistic about like, the amount of money like people are wasting on renting comparison to owning or something.
I will tell you, one of my friends, true story, one of my friends bought a house. She ended up moving out of state last month because I had a conversation with her and I said, do you know the difference in net worth of a renter versus a homeowner? And I swear to God, don't do it right now, because pay attention. You've got 14 minutes to focus on Scott and me. After you're done, Google that, and you will see that the average net worth, and it's like the US Department of Labor statistics or something. This isn't like some Zillow stuff. It's like something like $246,000 is the average net worth of a homeowner, and the average net worth of a renter is like 5,300. Don't quote me, go Google it, but something along those lines.
So that's a great example of a surprise.
Perfect example of a surprise.
Yeah. It's like you throw something at them that they just wouldn't know or wouldn't expect. Or
she was blown away.
Yeah.
She bought a house and moved out of state.
There you go. Hopefully you got a referral fee.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah. And then I know we don't have 13 minutes left. So one of the biggest things that I get asked, and this is something that we went through together, is like, where do I start?
Yes.
Right. So I want to make sure I go over that, but I feel like we covered, each email. And again, the days between, like I usually do, depending on the type of lead, I'll do 2 to 3 days in between each email, and again, this is an initial campaign. When you're bringing someone in, they get the welcome email, what to expect, like how you're going to, like, in that welcome email too, it's like, this is who we are. This is the value we bring. This is what we're going to, this is what we're going to educate you on. Like all these things, not asking them to do anything. You're not selling them that first email. Of course, there's always going to be call to actions, Laurel, right? But that's on their terms. You have to, like, when you're writing and asking someone to do something in the writing, that's on your term. If you have call to actions in the bottom of the email, that's on their terms. Like you always are going to have that as part of your template, something for them to do next.
So can you give an example of that?
Well, I mean, specifically is like, find out what your home is worth, search for homes, right? Look at our most recent video blogs, or, you could have like join our next seller workshop. Right.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. How about, do you think it's too direct in the beginning to have some, I see a lot of people that put like at the bottom, they'll say, If you would like to call me about, if you would like to discuss your particular situation, here's a link to my calendar, like a Calendly link. Click here and schedule 20 minutes with me.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's I think if it's a CTA in the bottom of the email where it's like, speak to us, like, do a call. I think that's okay as well. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So then, that's the first email. Then each additional email is, again, like we talked about, pain, agitate, solve, a story, a surprise. And then as you get further along in the campaign, if you're not getting interviews, you have to, the way that you set up a campaign is if they respond to you or get on a call with you or take some sort of action or next step, then they come off the campaign, and now we're talking about like the specifics of tagging and like being able to pause a campaign, right, automatically if they take a certain action. Okay. So you have to, when you're writing the emails further down the campaign, like email 6, 7, and 8, you're writing it based on the idea that they haven't responded yet, right? Not that they responded. They responded. They're not getting the emails anymore. That's right. The idea.
So you've got to have a sophisticated software that's going to allow that to happen. Correct.
And all the CRMs do it. It's just, again, it goes back to like, you're wearing a million hats as a business owner. And like, do you have someone to delegate this to, or do you have time to jump in and look into your CRM to figure that out? But I think it's very important. And again, because you lose your audience if they're getting messages that don't apply to them or don't make sense, right?
Right.
So yeah, email 6, 7, 8 is like going to be a little less content and a little bit more direct for them to take action.
Okay.
Okay.
So broad, welcome, broad, more focused as you get down into the campaign.
Yeah. It's like the last email is like, it should be like a few sentences, if that. Okay. Like, and same format, like very short and much more direct to like take an action step at the very end.
Can we talk about subject lines?
Yes. So that's what I wanted to get to. So this goes back to framework. Okay. And this is what we talked about when I initially started working with you, is that, when you're setting aside the time. So again, setting aside that time during your day, blocking off your calendar, putting your phone away, closing your email, literally only having like a Google Doc open, right? The way that you outline this is, first, you have to identify who your audience is. Who are you talking to, right? Mm-hmm. Then how many emails you're going to have. Then subject lines. And again, the subject line does not have to be the final product, but you want to write it in a way where you're basically in one line, you're giving a summary almost of what that email is going to be. Right. And that kind of puts you in that mindset of like what you have to dictate or get across in that email. And then after you write it, you can go back to the subject line to manipulate it and make it a little bit more, catchy, and make it a little bit more of a hook, right? You don't want to be gimmicky, but you want it to be, maybe a question, right? So one of the best places that I go to, Laurel, is called answerthepublic.com. And I think I'm sure Frank has mentioned this before. If not, he should. You go to Answer the Public and you literally write in the term, you write in the question, whatever, and it's going to give you like hundreds of questions that people are asking about that topic. And it's a great place to like identify subject lines or identify questions that you maybe want to answer on your nurture campaigns or a blog. So again, answerthepublic.com.
Answerthepublic.com.
Yep.
We'll also put that in our follow-up email.
Mm-hmm. It's a great place to go. So
perfect.
Subject lines, they, short, you want to use some keywords, a question.
Would it be okay if I shared, would you guys, one of the emails that I just sent out to some of my divorce attorneys? We're not going to read the whole thing, but I just sent this out and I literally got a 73% open rate.
Oh,
okay. Hold on. It's because I'm doing everything you taught me.
Oh, I don't know if you take all the credit.
You taught me everything.
You were a very good writer when I came in already.
You taught me everything I know.
Needed a little. No.
So this is divorce listings and investors beware. That was the subject line. Divorce and investors beware. This is to my lawyers. One to take a quick memo about what's going on behind the scenes, blah, blah, blah. I give a story, I give an example, and I go down here, and then I have
Advice.
my little call to action.
Look, and you even like tell them what you're doing, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So divorce listings and investors.
Wait, who'd you send this to? Who'd you send that to?
My divorce attorney.
Your divorce attorneys, right? And
Yeah.
there's some keywords in there, right? Divorce, investors, right?
Divorce listings, investors beware.
And
Yeah. So it was
beware,
like
right.
right there. So it is very clear immediately what this topic is about. They don't have to, it's not like, guess what? Question mark. Like, these vague, who has time to open up some vague?
No, you have to give something specific,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So that they open it. And then of course your first sentence as well, like, and we can go back to this, but like you really, when you're reading back your email, if you're reading the word I too much, like bad news. It needs to be you. Remember, like you're wanting them to identify with what you're writing. It has to be about them, not about you.
Right.
Okay.
100%.
And what their circumstances, what they're going through, what they're identifying with. Okay. Couple other, God, I can't believe we've almost been an hour already. So couple books I recommend that we should put in there. Okay. Really quick.
Okay, Sarah's going to type them because she does all of she captures everything we say and puts it in.
Perfect. Yeah. I see it. It's amazing. So Dan Kennedy, The Ultimate Sales Letter. Okay. And he has like multiple versions of it, but that's an amazing place to start. And I highly recommend you reading that book. Okay. The other is, and you did this course, Story Brand.
Yep.
Really good about just really knowing like your story as a business and like how you tell that story to people that you want to be working with. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Robert McKee, and that's about, it's called Story, and it's like this long title, but it's about screenplay writing. And that's where the idea of working in the surprise is really important, especially once, you think of a screenwriter, they have to convince a movie head to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars for their script. It's a hard thing to do, right? It needs to be captivating their writing. So I think that's it's a really great book as well that I recommend.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Can I tell them a hack that you told me?
Yes, please.
Okay. One hack is that, because if you're anything like me, you're like, oh my gosh, you have all these brilliant ideas, but they're like while you're driving. So then when you sit down to write, you just draw a complete blank. You're like, I have no idea. I have no idea where to even start. One of the things you said was write down the subject lines. So start with just subject lines, and then you can go back later on those Thursdays and start writing from the subject line. Right. So just get your subject lines done. Write out 8 of them. Okay. That's hack number 1. Hack number 2 is something that you have helped our business become way more efficient. And that is because we do have all of the real estate's a tech business. We have all of these different like programs and CRMs and email things and spreadsheets and whatever. And there is number 1, there's multiple entry of our data. Number 2, it's human error. So either somebody's name appears here, but it's not there and there.
Right.
Or it's like, oh, but something got transposed, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so what we use is what you currently, you can tell us more about RealSync. It's this integrated software, and it's super reasonable and it's super easy to use, and it connects everything. So now, like Sarah, we literally put a name and a contact in one place, and it goes everywhere. So we're just doing it one time, and it's accurate, and it's everywhere. So we're saving time, and things are accurate. And so it's been a huge lifesaver, game changer for us, especially as we've grown. So do you want to tell them any more? Did I miss anything about real estate?
No, yeah. So, I mean, we're a middleware company. So yeah, I mean, we haven't even mentioned who I work for, but I do all the sales writing and campaign writing for RealSync. and we're a middleware company. So think of us like a customized Zapier for real estate, and it's self-serve. And so basically it's not going to break, and it's maintained and monitored by us. And so, yeah, if you want to connect your CRM to, let's say, viral is a great example. So when your emails go out and everyone's clicking in your emails, engaging, you can see that right back in your CRM automatically on what they clicked on and what they looked at. And it drops kind of notes within that contact record. It applies tags, all that happens automated. And then on the flip side, if you're getting new leads coming in and they're going off in those campaigns, and you want to get them onto your nurture campaign with viral, we push that new lead data right into viral marketing, right? So that's just one example. Think of us as a bridge. I try to I'm not very technical. I worked at a marketing company for a long time. I don't know a lot about
You don't write the code?
No, I didn't write the code, right? But I understand it. But think of it as a bridge between applications, right? And what Laurel said, it saves you time and it saves you the data errors of misinputting information because you're doing it in so many different places, right? And how you can automate all the different tasks so that you're focused and working in one place, which really should be your CRM. I mean, that's where you and your agents and your team should all be working out of. Everything else should be integrated or automated and connected. So it's all happening in one place. And that's what Laurel's talking about. So yeah, realsync.com. If you need help automating any of your systems, we have a ton of stuff out of the box. We also do custom integrations.
Perfect. It's been a lifesaver, and we just have to get these. That's another hack. We have to get these because as we grow our businesses, there's not one CRM that does everything well. That's been the struggle in our whole industry. Yeah. So we all have our favorites. This one does that well. This one does listing management well. This one does email book stuff well. And so what RealSync does is it allows us to use our favorites, but then sync it all together. So we don't have to sacrifice a feature because we're trying to go with an all-in-one. So anyway, I'm just a huge fan. You guys have made our life easier. And
thanks, Laurel.
Yeah. So thank you, Scott. I can't believe it's 11.
I know. Wow. We keep going.
We could just keep talking. This is what happened. So hopefully you guys got some good stuff. We're going to send out a recap. We will send out the links of all the things. Dan, you did ask for, Dan's book. It's Scott's book recommendation. Dan who?
Dan Kennedy.
Dan Kennedy.
Yeah, the ultimate sales letter. If you have not read it, I read it.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay.
It's like, a lot of what I'm telling you is from Dan, is from Donald Miller with Story Brand. It's a lot of things that I've read and then executed on and learned myself, right? But it all starts from somewhere. I learned a lot from Frank because he did a lot of reading and research when I was partners with him at Viral, especially him doing all the intern training. I just heard him repeating himself over and over and over and over again, and
it stuck. I love it.
Yeah.
So excellent. And so Sarah has put in the chat, obviously register for our next Ask the Experts. We also do have 2 courses. We've got our Divorce Niche boot camp that is on demand. It is ready to go. You guys can watch it anytime. And Sarah put the link in there. We also have our master course. If you want to become a CDRE, we do it twice a year. Our next class is in April. So getdivorcecertified.com for that. All right, Scott, thank you so much. You're welcome. Best. And I'm going to call you because we've got more to talk about.
Yeah, anytime.
Did you help me? Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
All right.
All right. I'll talk soon. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Bye.